Salutations friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be discovering the Fort Manle Discovery set. I'm going to be going over each of these fragrances in here, giving you a brief little review of each of them. I've been wearing them for the past 2 weeks and letting you know which are my favorites. I'm planning on purchasing a few of these fragrances very soon, so I will be doing a more in-depth review in the future once I get my hands on those, but I thought it might be fun to go through these with you guys and let you know if I think this discovery set is worth picking up. So let's go. First and foremost, guys, this was sent to me, but I actually reached out to Fort Manle. I wanted to purchase a few of their bottles and I asked them which were their most favorite, if there was something that they was really popular that I could purchase and review. And I mentioned I was interested in getting a few things from them, and they were like, let's send you this discovery set since I had no way to sample these fragrances, and let us know which ones you want to purchase and purchase them. You know, basically this was sent so that way I could figure out what I wanted to buy. I was in no way offered anything free or anything discounts once I decided to purchase. And it was very generous and nice of them to basically send this to me so that I could figure out what I wanted to buy. That being said, this was sent to me, but this was not sent to me to review, but it was something that I did receive. So I did want to mention that to you guys. As you know, I will always be transparent about anything that I review. And if for some reason I forget to mention where something is from, feel free to ask in the comments. I will always be forthcoming with that information. That being said, this is the Discovery set and it's really fantastic. It has 8 fragrances and I'm going to be reminding myself of how they all smell and letting you guys know a little bit about each. So let's go. I'm going to be going through 8 fragrances. So this review and this video might be a little bit long, even though the reviews are going to be a little bit short because I'm just kind of giving you my first impressions or initial impressions. But what I'm going to do is below in the description box, and I'm also going to make a comment of each of the fragrances and timestamp them. That way if you don't want to sit through the whole video, you don't have to. And I'm also probably going to butcher just about every name, so please excuse and forgive me for my flubbers. So this one is called Mr. Bojnokopff's Purple Hat, and this was one of them when I initially heard about this line and I was reading about all the notes that initially got me really excited. And it's because it has one of those kind of compositions where there's a lot of different things that sound like they wouldn't go together, and I wanted to see how they came together. So the notes in this are oud, lavender, vanilla, Belgian chocolate, vetiver, guaiac wood, and cedar wood. I was really excited to see how the oud, the lavender, and the chocolate would come together because I thought that would be a really interesting mix. So I have it right here. I've sprayed it on. I've let it dry down a little bit, and this is what the little sample looks like. And I have to say, like, this one is so impressive because it's a really nice balance of everything. Now on my skin, this is a very linear scent. It does start off a little bit sharp and a little tiny bit bitter, like in the initial first 20 seconds, and then it drives down to be a very aromatic, woody, oudy scent, and it's got a nice lavender kind of like in the air, but you don't really smell it on the skin. The primary notes I get in this are most definitely the lavender and the oud, and then it's kind of like an afterthought of the chocolate and the vanilla and the guaiac wood. I do kind of get initial cedar notes on my skin the longer it's been on it, like I can start picking that up, like that kind of pencil shavings. But overall, this is a very aromatic and very almost heavy but sheer woodsy scent. It's the perfect type of scent to wear in humidity, specifically if you like to wear really heavier fragrances or complex fragrances, but heat and humidity kind of don't let you. This is a great fragrance for that, so I really enjoyed it. Longevity on my skin was about 6 to 8 hours, which is really, really good, and it has about a medium projection. It's Charlatan, and this one has, just like the initial, pretty much the theme in all of these fragrances is a lot of complexity, a lot of layers, a lot of notes. And what I've noticed is real quick is that they all tend to be pretty linear, which I really enjoy. So this fragrance right here, Charlatan, is another one that has a variety of different notes that you didn't think would really go together. So you have pear, chocolate, truffle, damask, rose, jasmine, osmanthus, vanilla, sandalwood, and amber. Now this scent comes off a little bit fruity and a little bit sparkly in the opening, but what it does is it kind of becomes a little bit more earthy and a slightly bit more musky and a little bit more gourmand in the dry down. I don't get much of the truffle, but I do get a lot of the pear, the amber, and the rose in the initial lifespan of this fragrance. Once it dries down, it's pretty linear. You're going to get something that's a nice mix of sparkly, fruity, and earthy, and I really like the way that that balances out. This is more of an evening fragrance. It's a little bit more peppery and sharp, but I find this to be a really pleasant, peppery, sharp fragrance. Sometimes things are really nice and rounded, really soft, but I actually kind of like that there's a juxtaposition between these notes and it's not completely harmonious, but it creates a really interesting and wonderful fragrance. This is a little bit more on the avant-garde side. If you guys are familiar, fragrances I could kind of throw out there that are similar to that are like Bat from Zoologist and things like that. But at the same time, it's very wearable and it's very beautiful. I get the same longevity, about 6 to 8 hours on my skin, and it does have medium projection. I think this one is a little bit less likely to be a crowd pleaser. If you are unfamiliar with niche fragrances and you're unfamiliar or like your palate or your nose palette isn't used to fragrances that have competing notes, it's definitely not so harmonious, but it comes together to create a really beautiful and really interesting fragrance, and I could see myself wearing this a lot. It's really, really great. This one is for your Aventus lovers out there. This is Maduro. This is a basil, apple, pineapple, tobacco, amber, beeswax, cinnamon, vanilla, patchouli, vetiver, benzoin, and cedar fragrance, and this smells like, it just smells like a straight pineapple to me, but it has like notes to it that make it really fantastic as a fragrance. If you're a pineapple lover out there, if you like pineapple in your fragrances, this one is amazing. It's very fresh, it's very fruity, it's perfect for humid weather, summertime, springtime. It's really playful, really fruity and fun, but it doesn't come off as gimmicky. It doesn't come off as too fruity or too young or too feminine. The cedarwood and the tobacco definitely balances out the super fruitiness of the apple and the pineapple and kind of tones it down and makes it definitely a definitively unisex fragrance. But there's just something about this that I really love, that is an easy to wear fragrance, but it's not, it doesn't come off to me as something that's trying to be an Aventus clone or trying to jump on the Aventus bandwagon when it comes to pineapple. But overall, this is a really fantastic fragrance and probably one of the best pineapple fragrances I've smelled out there that is very pineapple dominant. If you guys are fans of the fruitier batches out there like myself, you probably would really like this, but again, this is not an Aventus clone. But I do very much like that you can pick out the apple, pick out the basil, pick out the pineapple. They're very strong, but the tobacco in there and the woods in there and the amber in there definitely kind of rounds it out and tones it down and makes this a really fantastic fragrance. I get about 4 to 6 hours of wear time on my skin, generally with fruitier fragrances. Even ones that have a really heavier base, like with tobacco or woods, I tend to get about 4 to 6 hours. So it does perform a little bit less than the first two, but still really well in my weather and my climate. And overall, the projection of this is really nice. It's a little bit lighter than the other two, but it doesn't last as long. So the projection is a little bit past arm's length for the first 2 hours, and then it kind of comes to be a little bit more moderate. It has to have one of the best names. I love this. And it's Confessions of a Garden Gnome. This one has notes of cedarwood, musk, bergamot, coriander, yuzu, pink peppercorn, lily of the valley, mango, rose, violet leaf, ambergris, and amber. And this is another unisex fragrance. This is like, when you think of like the amber, the coriander, and the yuzu, and the pink pepper, I think of something that's slightly spiced and a little bit warm and deep. But what I love about this is it does have that base, but it's a very kind of crisp, slightly bitter green scent in the opening. And I love that because of the yuzu and the bergamot. I think this is so well done. This is kind of like, if you romantically in your head think of what freshly cut grass would smell like, this is what that reminds me of, and I think that's an ode to the name. It's not straight grassy or bitter or smells too vegetal, too green, too photosynthesis. I know that doesn't really make sense, but this has a nice balance of the other notes in there, like the rose and the violet leaf and the peppercorn, which works really well with the yuzu and the bergamot to give this a really beautiful, just fresh cut green grass, but as a fragrance, not just as a perfect, like, this is exactly fresh cut green grass like you'd get from like Demeter, which I love those scents. This is a little bit more interpretive and a little less literal, but it's still really fantastic. I love this has a slight sweetness in the dry down. Again, this is another linear scent, and the sweetness comes from the rose, which I think pairs again really nicely with the citrus notes and also with the base notes like amber. Overall, this is probably one of the fragrances that is more wearable and easy to understand from this line, but nonetheless is still very imaginative and really nice. Got about 4 to 6 hours of wear on my skin, and this is the one where the projection is a little bit more moderate. It's about elbow's length for the first few hours. Then it becomes a little bit more intimate, but that's completely okay. It's still a gorgeous scent. Amber Absolutely is next, and this is one when I was initially interested in the brand, kind of like Mr. Bojnokopff's Purple Hat. Again, I'm mispronouncing things, I'm so sorry. That really had me interested. I really love amber scents. I kind of overdid it 2 years ago, so I sold a lot of my bottles, and I've been looking to just add amber scents to my line or to my collection that are kind of like the ambers to end all ambers. I'm still trying to convince myself to purchase or not to purchase the one from Stefan Humbert Lucas, but this is one that kind of had me excited. Now there's something about specific amber scents when mixed with certain notes that can come off of my skin a little bit salty and remind me of Play-Doh, and I actually don't mind that. Like, it's a little bit off-putting in the very beginning, but then like after I wear it for like 20 to 30 minutes, it becomes very comforting, and I really enjoy that. And this is one of those scents that does that a little bit in the opening, not too much the entire lifespan. So this is amber, musk, benzoin, labdanum, honey, plum, rose, and vetiver, and cedarwood. And I think it's the cedarwood. I think it's that kind of like woody pencil shaving mixed with the amber and the benzoin that's kind of making it seem a little bit salty with the musk. But I really like it. There's something about this just way in the background, like very, very, very much in the background, that comes off a tiny bit sour, but it's a warm sour. It's like a specific deliberate sour, and I think it's from the plum and the musk. Overall, the scent is very wearable. It's not very strong on the amber as a dominant note, but when all the notes come together, it is a dominantly amber scent, and I actually really enjoy that. I like the fact that you're getting the feeling of amber, but it's not a dominant amber scent, because we're all so familiar with dominantly amber scents that they can come off smelling a little bit cheap or not complex, and a lot of times we can easily find scents like that for like 10-20 bucks pretty much anywhere, and it's nice to find a really complex amber scent that has amber and mimics amber, but you can definitely tell that there's layers to it. This is still a linear scent. It still lasts a little bit longer on the skin. Actually, this one's about 8 hours, which is really, really good. This does not have that much projection on my skin. It's definitely way more intimate. But overall, this is one that I really, really enjoyed. I kind of like that little bit of salty sourness in it that kind of broke up the amber, but at the same time enhanced that warm sweetness that amber is known for. And you definitely get a little bit of resins and a little bit of smoke and a little bit of fruit. And it all just kind of comes together and elevates this really beautiful fragrance. Again, this is another one of the more wearable, easy to understand ones. But if you're not an amber fan, I think that you might like this too, because there's a lot of other things going for it as well. So I really, really like this one a lot, obviously. It's probably one of my favorites. I'm gonna butcher the name, so please forgive me. Is Fatih Sultan Mehmed. And this is so delicious. This scent is bergamot, apple, petitgrain, rose, tulip, iris, vanilla bean, benzoin, amber, ambergris, cedar patchouli, and oud. This smells like a really rich syrup, and I get tobacco vibes from this. It's a little bit powdery, it's a little bit sweet, it's a little bit floral. It has some kind of marine notes to it, again from the ambergris. And the oud gives us a really nice smoky base. I love this scent, you guys. Love it. This is one of the more scents that isn't as linear. It definitely develops a little bit more on the skin, but once you've worn it for about an hour, it kind of settles into this really just kind of like milky, complex, really delicious, spiced, soft, powdery, just sweet, really delicious, delectable fragrance. It smells, again, like there's tobacco in it, but there's no tobacco. And the oud in here isn't too overpowering. Just overall, this is another ridiculously complex fragrance that has a lot of balance. And this is another fragrance where the notes seem to be a little bit more combative and they come together really harmoniously. This also lasts on the skin a very long time. I actually got a little over 10 hours the first time I wore this. But this is another scent that sits a little bit closer to the skin. It's got more moderate to mild projection. This is a great one. I think this is one of their top sellers, and I can definitely see why. It's pretty amazing. Harem Rose. This is amber, benzoin, vanilla, there we go. Rose, cashmere, woods, and vetiver. This comes off as one of the more, not as complex, I don't want to say boring because it's definitely not a boring scent, as one of the less exciting scents from the line. If you like rose scents, and I love rose scents, this is an outstanding rose fragrance. I love woodsy rose scents, and I think that the amber and the vanilla definitely give this a sweetness with the vetiver, which gives it a smokiness, but at the same time, it's just a crystal clear rose scent, and it's really absolutely beautiful. However, compared to the others, it doesn't have as much complexity. It definitely smells like something you might have smelled before and you might already have in your collection, but if you don't have a fragrance like this in your collection, this is definitely one I think would fit most collections, especially if you're rose lovers and you like to have a nice variety of rose scents. It's a little bit romantic and whimsical. I think this is actually a true unisex rose scent because of the vetiver and because of the benzoin and the amber. What it does is it kind of balances the rose and doesn't make it too sweet. Again, this is just like a crystal clear rose scent that has some masculine aspects to it and some feminine, and they come together to create a really just beautifully well crafted rose scent. Again, it's not nearly as complex or as involved as other fragrances from this collection, but at the same time, I do find it to be very beautiful. Get about 6 hours of wear on my skin, and this one has a little bit better projection. It's a little bit more on the moderate side past my arms for the first few hours of wear. Last but not least is Suleyman Le Magnifique, and this is a masterpiece in my opinion, so I'm going to get into that. This is galbanum, amber, musk, benzoin, patchouli, vetiver, oud, sandalwood rose, tuberose, vanilla, ambergris, cinnamon, and red apple. To me, this fragrance out of all of them encompasses all the best of all of these fragrances. It has a little bit more, it develops a little bit more on the skin, it tells more of a story, it has a lot of complexity, a lot of combative notes that come together really harmoniously, but not totally harmoniously, which makes this fragrance really exciting to wear. I love it. It smells peppery and a little bit sharp, but it also is powdery and a little bit sweet. And the apple is a tart apple, which works really well with the rose and the tuberose. It doesn't make it too fruity, so it doesn't go too jammy or too tropical. It's just an absolutely fantastic balance of everything. It's very complex, it's very rich, it's very wearable in most environments. I could definitely, and I enjoyed wearing this in humid environments. And there's something about it that kind of smells like tobacco, and I really love that because even though there's no tobacco in it, I like finding familiarity from notes that are coming together to create something that's not there. It's kind of like sometimes you can get a feeling for a fragrance that doesn't have something in there because maybe that note doesn't go too well, or might turn rancid, so they kind of mimic that note. And what that does to me is it kind of creates more layers and more depth. It's kind of like if you're painting a painting and you use this one color and it's flat, But if you can create that same color through layers and glazing and different techniques, and you have that same color, it has more depth to it, but it still has that familiarity. It kind of tricks your brain, and it's really exciting and wonderful. It's a great experience, and I love that. And I love that the note that I'm kind of picking up is tobacco. I really think that's great. I don't think everyone will pick out tobacco, but I do. That's just so good. This is so good. This is very wearable. This is very unique. This is very sexy. This is very mysterious. It smells amazing. This is absolutely, absolutely fantastic. So, fantastic longevity, about 8 hours on my skin, and moderate projection, which is really nice too. So this is the last fragrance that I tried. I'm going to give you guys my top 3 and let you guys know my overall thoughts. 3 are Amber Absolutely, just because it has a beautiful, rich sweetness to it. I love the amber, but I love that the amber is kind of like, there's layers with the plum and the benzoin and the ambergris. Just a really gorgeous scent, and I love that it's complex, but it's also really easy to understand, because easy to understand fragrances are more easy for me to wear. I can wear them around my sister, I can wear them around my husband, and I really appreciate those, but that is still a beautiful scent. Mr. Bojnokopff's Purple Hat. You guys, I love lavender, and I'm really getting into chocolate fragrances, and the oud in here and the vanilla. This is such a beautiful aromatic scent, specifically if you like to wear heavier scents and you live in the tropics or really humid climates. This is a perfect scent, but there's something about it that's really delicious and sexy. And it's just really involved, and I love it. Absolutely love it. And then obviously the one I was just raving about, Suleyman Le Magnifique. Again, out of all these fragrances, it's an absolute masterpiece. I could go into it again, but I don't want this video to be too long, but it is absolutely gorgeous. I do really love Maduro. I love the pineapple. If you guys are looking for a perfect scent for the spring and summer, and you're really into niche, great fragrance, fantastic. Probably will buy a bottle of that in the future, definitely. Harem Rose, I feel, was the least exciting out of all of these fragrances, but still nonetheless meticulously crafted, beautiful rose scent. Definitely very unisex, and it had a lot of interesting elements to it, which made it really gorgeous. So that's my thoughts on Fort Manle. Overall, I think the entire line is fantastic. I definitely would recommend sampling them. The Discovery set is $60 for 8 fragrances. I was considering purchasing it before I decided which fragrances I wanted to buy, if I hadn't figured out which ones, but they were very generous and sent that to me, so that was very nice of them. But I do think that if you cannot get to a place to sample these fragrances, I think the Discovery set is a great investment, because it is just, you get a generous amount of fragrance in there. You can really get an idea for the entire line, because their fragrances are not cheap. They are niche prices, but they're definitely worth it. And overall, I think that it was also a lot of fun to be able to try them all too. Again, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like videos like this where I go through entire lines and Discovery sets and just let you guys know what I think, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up. It lets me know to continue doing videos like this. And also don't forget to subscribe, because it's free and I'm free. And I put out new videos every Monday through Friday, and sometimes on the weekends as well. So I'll always have something for you to watch. In any case, I hope you guys are all happy and healthy and have a great day, month, year, whatever. And I'll see you next time. Bye!